Today's gospel could be divided into two units. The first concerns knowing Jesus. The second deals with church authority. We shall examine both, beginning with authority in the church. Power can either reside in the community, which is called democracy, or in a single individual known as monarchy. It is interesting to note that Jesus gave the church both options. Jesus nominated Peter as the leader of his followers. And this is what today's gospel is about. Jesus asks his disciples, "But who do you say that I am?" Simon Peter answers him, "You are the Christ, the Son of the living God." From a Christian standpoint, Peter is correct. And Jesus commends his knowledge not as coming from any human being, but from God in heaven. This is a revelation from God to Peter. Jesus seizes the occasion to elevate Peter to a leadership position in the church. Jesus does this in two stages. To begin with, he will build his church on Peter, the rock. Upon this solid foundation, the forces of evil will not triumph over the community of believers. The church will prevail. What follows is the transfer of authority to Peter as the leader of the church. To do this, Jesus uses the metaphor of the keys. In the presence of the other disciples, Jesus declares to Peter, "I will give you the keys to the kingdom of heaven." Keys to the kingdom of heaven, here given to Peter, symbolize the authority to control entry. This becomes clear from today's first reading, where God says through the prophet Isaiah to Eliakim, "I shall place upon his shoulders the key of the house of David. He will open, and no one will shut. He will shut, and no one will open." Like Eliakim, Peter has the power to determine who enters and exits the church. Jesus continues to empower Peter in these words, "Whatever you bind on earth shall be bound in heaven. Whatever you loose on earth shall be loosed in heaven." As many scholars have pointed out, this saying could refer to Peter's authority to teach, forgive sins, or excommunicate when somebody does something really, really bad. Peter has the authority to teach, forgive, and excommunicate. The emphasis here is on single leadership in the church. Whether the leader is a pastor in a parish like this, or a bishop in a diocese, or a pope in the universal church. Single leadership or monarchy in the church. It is true that Jesus gave Peter the authority to be the leader of the church. The question is, what is the basis of that power? It is not Peter's personality or person. The foundation of Peter's authority is his accurate understanding of Jesus as revealed to him by God. Keep in mind, it is after Peter properly answers Jesus' question that power is transferred to him. In contrast, on a different occasion, Jesus shares with his disciples how he is going to be arrested, tortured, and put to death in Jerusalem. Peter pulls Jesus aside and rebukes him. This will not happen to you, Lord. Nobody is going to mess with you so long as we are around you. Jesus turns to the other disciples and publicly denounces Peter, using strong words. Get behind me, Satan. Look at the whole picture. When Peter shows an accurate understanding of God and Jesus, Jesus blesses him and transfers church authority to him. But when Peter is wrong and provides a misleading understanding of Jesus, the same Jesus denounces Peter, using strong words. Get behind me, Satan. What does this mean? It means that Peter's authority is based on his proper understanding of Jesus and God. And that is the foundation of authority in the church. Not ambition, not self-interest, not personality, but the proper understanding of God and Jesus. Single leadership is provided by Jesus for the church. But Jesus also understands that time will come when this form of organization will be inadequate for the community of believers. And so, in Matthew's Gospel, chapter 18, verse 18, the authority to bind and to loose is given to the community. Talking to his followers about church discipline, in Matthew 18:18, Jesus says, "Truly, I tell you, whatever you bind on earth will be bound in heaven. Whatever you loose on earth will be loosed in heaven." Jesus is not addressing Peter this time. He is speaking to the community of believers. So the authority that is vested in Peter as an individual is also given to the community of believers in Matthew 18:18. The implication being Jesus has given us the option between democracy, power in the hands of the people, and monarchy, authority in a single individual. We shouldn't be stuck with one. And that is the reason for the two options. Whichever one works at a particular time for a particular community is the one that we should embrace. And this is a wonderful opportunity for us in this day and age of crisis. Let us explore the other options given to us by Jesus. We now move on to this first part of the gospel, which is about knowing Jesus. There are two ways of knowing something or a person. We can know about somebody, or we can know the person. To know about something is to have facts and information about the person or the place. For instance, before I migrated to the US, I had a lot of information about the United States. I could show you the US on the map. I knew it was a multicultural society with different ethnic groups, with different people, black, white, brown, and in between, with different time zones. That was the information I had about the US before I came here. Once I arrived, I began to experience what I knew about: the people, the culture, the weather condition, the time zone, the diversity. So it is no longer knowing about the US, it is knowing the US, having a personal experience of the United States. What Jesus wants of us is not to know about him. What Jesus desires is for us to know him, to have an experience of him. And that is what the first part of today's gospel is about. Jesus asked his disciples, "Who do people say that I am? Or who do people say that the Son of Man is?" The disciples had no difficulties coming up with different answers. Some people say you are Elijah, John the Baptist, Jeremiah, or one of the prophets. Then Jesus personalized the question. "But you, who do you say that I am?" They all kept quiet except for Peter, who says, "You are the Christ, the Son of the living God." And that is the reason why Jesus blesses Peter and transfers authority to him. He alone had a deep personal knowledge and experience of Jesus. Now the question is, who is Jesus for you? What is your own experience of Christ? Will you come up with a Baltimore Catechism answer? Or your answer will come from your own experience, from your soul? And I fear very much that most people's answer to this question, who is Jesus, will come from a textbook, catechism class, Baltimore Catechism, what the priest says, what the bishop says, what the pope says. And that is the kind of answer that Jesus is dismissing. It's like the 3 students. Oh, this room is hot. Oh, no, it is cold. Oh, no, it is the right temperature. It's about your experience and what works for you. Nobody can tell you that your experience of God and Jesus is wrong. Nobody. Because it is personal. So today, the gospel has powerful messages for us. First, Jesus has given us 2 options: democracy in the church or monarchy. And then what matters is our own personal, individual encounter with Christ, and not what Father Mali or anybody is telling you.